YouTube, Dawson Writer here. Welcome to my review for Avataro Sentai DonBrothers episode 21. So this episode focused on Saru Brother, or technically Saru Brothers, as we found out that there was a previous person that held the title of Saru Brother, and not just one, but tons of previous people that held the title of Saru Brother, as well as the others. Because you have Saru Brother, who winds up transforming in front of people because he's helping these kids who almost lose their soccer ball. And when he does this, he gets spotted by these ramen mafia people who mistake him for their previous associate, Ben Tennyson and associate, who was the previous Saru Brother who had done them wrong. And that's when we find out that there were multiple people that were the DonBrothers before our current Rangers. As when they talk to Zenkaiser, he's like, oh yeah, there was like 5,000 people that were the DonBrothers before you. Which I guess kind of makes sense, since we did have that Oni sister storyline and when she was briefly replaced. But you know, if they fall out of line with actually helping with the fight, they basically lose their powers. But that was interesting. I honestly wouldn't mind if we use this as a plot device in future episodes, you know, previous candidates that had the powers. I think that would be kind of interesting for various storylines. It would actually make for a really fun villain ranger story, like a ranger that lost the powers but wants them back and somehow gets his hands on like a version of the powers or his own made version of the powers or something. That'd be kind of cliche, I've seen it before, but it'd be kind of cool. That opens up some story possibilities, and it was an interesting lore detail, and probably one of the more interesting things in the episode, as it was mostly a filler episode, but we did get some little bits that were interesting, such as that. Basically, though, Saru Brother's trying to help this guy out, and the guy doesn't understand, like, why didn't you just use the powers for personal gain like I did, like carrying chicks and stuff? You know how it is. And he's trying to kind of understand him through the episode as he's helping him. He kind of brings him together with the ramen boss guy, and they try to make peace when he hands the ramen guy this fake autograph from this movie. And, well, he doesn't know it's fake at the time. Spoiler alert for 5 seconds from now. He gives him the ramen recipe or whatever he wants, ramen sauce, because he wants to take the easy way out. He's like, why don't you just make the ramen sauce yourself? And he's like, because then I don't have to work on it if I already have it here. I'm like, actually, that's good thinking. Basically, they both double-cross each other, and Saru Brother is using his own unique brand of Saru Brotherness, of like imagination to like satiate your thirst, quite literally, because there's a thing about water, I guess. Satiate your thirst was a weird way of putting it, and also some weird words to put together. He's trying to help them not be so greedy and help them with his own unique way of thinking. And like, this was a Saru Brother focus episode, and it wasn't a bad one in that regard, but I feel like within the context of the storyline, the most interesting thing about it for me was finding out about the previous versions of the DonBrothers, and this previous version of the DonBrother, Saru Brother, because like everything about the Saru Brother focus, I feel like it, at least to me, didn't tell me anything I didn't already know about him. In a way, it kind of reminds me of those old 90s Toku fillers where the focus episode would have the main character just following around a filler character, and that was considered their focus episode. But it wasn't as bad as those, but I think you know what I'm getting at. And then at the end of the day, it's actually this Saru Brother that transforms into the monster of the week, because he's like, maybe if I fight you, I can understand you. I'm like, oh, that's a classic Toku logic bit there. So they fight him as he becomes the monster of the week, which in a way, I feel like them deciding to do that for this storyline felt like it was there. I mean, I guess it made sense in a way, but also to me, it also felt like, I said the word also just way too many times just then. To me, it, in addition to, no, I have to use the word also. It also felt like it was just on there because you have to have the fight at the end of the episode. Anyway, they fight at the end of the episode, and the coolest thing about it was when they get to the mecha fight, they actually did it on the ground in like normal size. I think if I remember right, the only time we've done that so far was during the debut for the mecha when it transformed and it was just sitting there, but I don't remember us having a full-on fight on the ground in actual size. Like, they've done it with the individual forms, but they haven't done the full one a lot. So it was a pretty cool fight, and I like that. I like shaking up the mecha fights because they can get pretty boring and tedious. But yeah. We win the day. He has ramen at his, or fake ramen at his ramen stand at the end, and it's kind of your classic filler episode. The only other thing that did happen is there was another brief fight between Murasame and Dragoku, almost like the one in the Ghost episode, where it felt kind of tacked on because they like contractually have to have these guys in there because they're new characters. But it was a little better than the last one, I thought. I mean, superficially, they both transformed into Legend Sentai Rangers. It was Murasame did Abare Killer, and Dragoku did the White Ranger from MMPR, or Kiba Ranger. And, you know, that was kind of cool. Abare Killer is my favorite suit, so that was cool to see. It did just make me think about the Legend Sentai changes, though, on how, I mean, I know the main reason they're in there is for shallow fan service and toy selling. But, like, in the context of the plot, I'm really curious to see what explanation we get on how that ties together and how it ties together with Zenkaiser by the end of the series. Because I don't want to jump to any complaints too soon, because we still have, like, over half the series to go, or half, give or take. And so, we have plenty of time to get an explanation on how it ties in. But I feel like the further we go into the series itself, the more the legend changes feel out of place. Like, it felt like right at the beginning with the gears and everything, but the more DonBrothers' story goes and it gets its own identity, it just feels strange. And I feel like it's been a while since we've done Legend Sentai changes. Like, we did them a lot at the beginning of the episodes, or at the beginning of the series, excuse me, and then we hadn't really had them until Dragoku showed up and did Dragon Ranger, and now this fight here. So I kind of forgot about them, and now that we're doing them again, DonBrothers has been so its own thing that it feels off. I am curious about like how that ties together, so I hope we find that out soon. But anyway, that fight was more interesting because that beat happened, and there was also a small beat right before the fight began when Murasame was summoned, and she's like, oh, you have to help the enemies, and because the Bestials showed up again too. We saw the Detective Bestial guy for the first time in quite a while, but she's like, you have to help him. And he's like, Mother, why was I created? And then the Westworld theme played. So that's, I feel, clearly setting up this storyline where, speaking of Westworld, this guy's going to question the nature of his reality and probably have a story arc about deciding what he wants for himself and end up turning good. But at least it was kind of an interesting beat. And by that I mean, like I said, the episode fight from the Ghost Girl episode was just like, hey, look, here's a fight that like literally doesn't fit in this episode at all. And this one was kind of out of place with the rest of the episode, but at least it had a little bit of story context and was more entertaining. Also, it's worth noting he was in his Don Tora form, in his evil form, and he was like walking like this. I don't know, that was a weird move. It was weird. But it was, last side note about that, I did appreciate like his different fighting mannerisms, like when he transformed into Kiba Ranger, like he had very distinct fighting mannerisms compared to like, well, I guess Gokaiger did that too, but classic kind of Gokai chain stuff, where I always like that. When, there's a Gokai change or whatever, and the mannerisms are different than whoever the original character was. Anyway, overall, your solid run-of-the-mill DonBrothers episode, a 3 out of 5. It was enjoyable, only a few little tidbits that contributed to the overall plot, but nothing too awful. But what did you guys think of the episode? Let me know in the comments as always. Until next time, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and climb the steps and ring that bell so you can get notifications for my videos. Dawson Ryder, signing out.